And I would now like to introduce our panelists and follow with a series of questions designed to help students gain insight into the world of executive management. There will be some time afterwards for student questions. So to introduce our CEO panelists, I would like to invite up onto the stage Kathleen J., SVP of Operations and Delivery in MapleWave and a graduate of Mount St. Vincent University. Erin, founder and CEO of Happy Kids Nutrition Academy and a graduate of Mount St. Vincent University. And Dave Reynolds, founder and CEO of Rum and 8 Group Incorporated and a graduate of Mount St. Vincent University. Now, let's please give our panelists a welcoming round of applause. Welcome. Thank you. So on to our first question. It can go into any order, actually. Please tell us briefly about your organization and the industry you operate within.
So Kathleen J., the company's MapleWave, not MapleWare.
Sorry.
That's okay. We get all kinds of different names. So we are a tech company headquartered here in Dartmouth and across the bridge. Our software is used in over 30 countries across the world. We have offices, like I said, here in Dartmouth, also in South Africa, and also in the UK, with teams in India and Kenya as well. So our product is used here in Canada by clients like Rogers and Eastlink. If anybody has a Rogers cell phone, the contract software where you sign digitally, that's our software. So neat little local story. And our most recent customer just lit up in Saudi Arabia.
And that's why I didn't go first, to get the technical things out of the way. So we have two organizations. So we have a company called Ruminate Group, which is a growth consulting firm, and we have a company that's partnered with a company called Value Selling. So I'll tell you a little bit about Ruminate. So Ruminate is a growth consulting firm. We're industry agnostic, so we work from everywhere from a McGinnis Gruber law firm to an engineering, architecture firms, biotech, anything you can think of, because honestly, the less we know, the more we can help. Very Socratic. We lead with questions, co-create those strategies, but we focus specifically on succession planning, leadership development, performance management, and then switch gears over to value selling. We work with clients like Adobe, Hootsuite, YouTube, Google, and what we do is we do an enterprise level sales training for those organizations and kind of partner with them to kind of execute and grow their organizations globally.
And my business is Happy Kids Nutrition Academy. So we teach kids all over the world, ranging from ages 8 up to age 18 in nutrition. Our courses are about 8 weeks to 12 weeks long. So we do cater to most of the homeschooling community. And a lot of our kids are in the United States. So we have various ranges of times throughout the day for them to take classes. We have roughly about 50 to 60 classes that we offer, and they're in a lot of common nutrition topics like mental health, sports nutrition. We also offer exercise science topics in sports anatomy and sports physiology, which are also pretty popular. And I think that's it.
That's really great. For our second question now, so leadership is important in an organization for growth to occur. What does leadership mean to you, and can you tell us the most important decisions you make as a leader of your organization?
I would say what leadership is to me is it's very much about, number one, you have to have a genuine care and concern for people. That isn't something you can fake. You're going to get tired very quickly if you don't genuinely care about people and their lives and their families. And to answer the part about, the thing that I take the most seriously, I take very seriously the fact that, we have 150 employees. That's 150 families. So the decisions that I make on a day-to-day basis, I try very hard to keep those 150 families front of mind. because that's a lot of lives to impact and a lot of households to impact.
Yeah, I'll probably follow up on that, actually. There's something when we roll out courses, we usually get a lot of executive people, vice presidents and CEOs, but sometimes we'll have like a lot of leadership committees that'll come in. We'll say, hey, why are you taking the course? And they'll kind of tell us a little bit about the impact and the reasons why they're taking it. But the secondary question we ask is like, who benefits from you taking this course? Because a lot of times when you're in a leadership role, you're influencing and engaging a lot of people through the organization. And I know for myself, being in leadership roles in the past, I know I can look back and see certain people that have grown and evolved in other organizations by the work that we've done together. So it has a lasting impression by being a good leader. And kind of similar, like was said earlier, a lot of leaders will come in and say, how do I achieve my goals? And I think the key with leadership is really, how do you get your goals accomplished by the people you work with? So you have a really cool responsibility about helping them, hold themselves more accountable, more ownership, and better execution.
You just took my answer there. But leadership to me is super important because there is goals. I have goals from the company, and I want my teachers and I want the children that we teach to be able to see these goals. We have a huge dedication to inspiring kids to make healthier eating habits. Leadership to me is hearing parents say how well their kids are actually eating salads and that they're able to adapt to healthier habits. We're inspiring kids to be able to eat better and to also feel better about themselves. And it's not about, good foods or bad foods. We're teaching them that it's okay to have treats. And I want my teachers and myself to be able to continue that mission each and every day as we teach. I have the best teachers imaginable, and it's because that they actually believe in the mission that we are out to set up, is to keep our kids happy and to kind of inspire the next generation. Because let's face it, when I was in school, nutrition was a very slim topic. It was all about Canada's Food Guide, but we're teaching them how to read food labels. We're teaching them some foods and what to eat before athletics. We're teaching them all about agriculture. We have a lot of topics that we inspire them, and they get really excited to come to class. And that's kind of what we're out for, is to be a leader in the next mission, to get kids to like nutrition.
That was really insightful. Thank you. For our third question, do you have any suggestions for our students as to how they can acquire skills in the area of leadership?
Yes, I do. Take every opportunity that's given to you. You're going to start your careers, and there's going to be opportunities that come along, and they're, in my experience, I've encountered a lot of interns, people starting out their careers who, and even when I started my career, surrounded by coworkers who were very quick to say, well, that's not my job. And those were not the people who excelled. Those were not the people who were given more opportunities. There's many examples I have of folks who were asked to go above and beyond in certain areas. I say to my own teams a lot, you are the captain of your own career ship. No one is going to come along and actively present you with all of those opportunities. You have to go out and find them and ask for them and ask to be given a chance, ask for mentorship, and ask for advice on how you can get even more of those opportunities.
Yeah, so I think the first thing that I'll say is there's an old adage that they'll say, knowledge is power. And I usually say, I don't believe in that. I think it's your ability to actually apply the knowledge that you have. So the key is, I honestly left Mount St. Vincent and probably never read a book until I was 28. But then I've read hundreds, if not thousands since. And I would say on average, I'll probably do about 20 or 30 books a year. And I would say there's a huge opportunity to not just be a good reader, but it's about how do you actually take the information and apply the information. So every time I read every day, it's a matter of what was the most important thing I read, where can I apply it, who can I apply it to? I would agree, mentorship, coaching, all those things are really good opportunities. Always look for opportunities to expand your education, continue that to keep going. And I'll say there's kind of two parts. You have to be willing to invest in yourself. So I did a master's in project management. I invested in that myself. but I knew I wanted to do an MBA. So I said, hey, I know what I'm contributing to this organization. So I put a business plan together, came to the organization that I was working with at the time and said, hey, I want to do my MBA, and here's kind of what I'm going to do in return. And they paid for the full MBA, started paying for a doctorate. So be willing to make sure that you make those investments back. So try and get every learning opportunity that there is. But to be honest, a lot of people are saying, oh, you know what, it's too expensive. There's so much free information online. But before she says it, there's good information, bad information, just like nutrition. So consume good information. Don't kind of get caught up in some of the bad information that's out there, like social media will lack sources. A simple thing that I would go after too is like Harvard Business Review. I get that on a regular basis, get the subscription. You get access to like case studies, information, easy stuff to apply right away. But I would say number one return for sure is go find a mentor. Find somebody that you want to be in that position and ask for their time. I almost can guarantee that if you ask somebody for their time and they give you, say, an hour a month or an hour a week, whatever you can get, just ask them questions. The key, and we use in our organization from a consulting perspective, is ask questions, learn. Because the more questions you ask, the more you're going to learn. I see a lot of people earlier in their careers are trying to sell themselves in organizations, which I think is great to get yourself a position, but the more questions you ask, the more information you get. And it's going to help you evolve because you're going to obviously take that information with you forward, and you're going to continue to keep growing. So you're always going to keep looking forward.
Yeah, with regards to a mentor, I've had like a couple mentors in the past, and they were great for just kind of getting your foot in the door, especially when you're trying to generate ideas on what a potential business opportunity might be. However, like they were good at just kind of give me general advice, but honestly, the best advice that I've ever been giving with my business is that I follow like a couple Facebook groups, and they are all like high earners, teachers that actually have like tutoring jobs, and they also have an online teaching business, and that's where I get a lot of my inspiration from. They're like posting all their goals that they want for the year and how much money they're potentially making, and I keep thinking to myself, I could be in that place as well. And I am that person that will basically soak in as much knowledge as I possibly can. I've done webinars that are business related on trying to get yourself set up with generating an idea for your business, trying to market yourself. And those are all fine and dandy, but it's very important to find a mentor that actually knows specifics to your business. At least that's where my problems have come in the past, is that my mentors didn't know who my target audience were. They didn't know how to market my business. And they said, and I did mention that maybe I should like bring this idea to in-person classes, local. And he did make a point that you do have you are able to target larger audiences all over the world. So it's actually better for you to kind of stick to online teaching instead of trying to bring it inside. And I did actually thought that was really good of him to say that. But for business, Facebook groups for me really helped me kind of establish myself as a leader because I managed to take a lot of what they were doing and being able to apply it. And like knowledge is like good to have, but it's all about applying that knowledge, because I've definitely read a lot of business, like things how to run a business, but if you're not applying it, then you're not really growing.
Wow, thank you. For our fourth question, what is one characteristic that every individual should possess if they want leadership to be in their future? And what is one behavior you have seen that can derail a future leader's career?
Back to what I said in the beginning. Number one for me is you have to care about people. You can't fake it. Like I said, you'll be exhausted. You have to, a big part of leadership is listening, coaching, helping, having very difficult conversations sometimes when you have someone who comes to you with the same problem over and over and over again, and you have to be, I always say a little bit Judge Judy. I don't know if I'm dating myself with the Judge Judy example. Maybe you all don't know who that is. But it's about having tough conversations with folks and pushing them outside their comfort zone sometimes. You genuinely have to care about people, though, in order to do that and remain energetic and enthusiastic about what you do every day. That's important to me, that I have passion for what I do and that I believe in the people that work with me and what I do every day. In terms of the second part of the question was, what do people do to derail their leadership careers?
Yep,
Is that the second
that's
part? Long questions are tough. I would say back to, again, the example I gave earlier, that's not my job attitude. That's a really quick way for people to just avoid and walk away and find someone else to work with. I always encourage people to do your best, try and find opportunities. My father always gave us the advice growing up, walk through life with a catcher's mitt on. And I try to live that every day. It's important, and I think it gets you far.
Yeah, this is a no-brainer for me. It's going to come back to communication. So I'll reference a book that, it's by John Maxwell. It said, everybody communicates with few connect. Get really good at communication. That's not just presentations, facilitation, but actually making connections. So when we work with organizations, we work a lot on relationship management, stakeholder management. It's really about building the human side of connection. When you're a leader, you're constantly doing that. And so there's two sides of it. Everybody loves to see somebody that's really well-spoken, really persuasive, can jump up on a stage and do a presentation. But I will say where the downfall is, the second part of that is, if you're not as good of a listener as you are a communicator, you're gonna miss out on as much as possible. So I would say the best leaders that you'll see inside of a room are really good at consuming information by listening. And so when they communicate, they're hearing what you're saying and they're bringing that back into a conversation. So a lot of times when you're communicating, if you're not taking notes, you're not also consuming some of this information. So I would say really invest a lot in communication. When we work with organizations and we do internal customized learning and development programs, we always start with communication. And we could be really focused on performance management, or we could be working on execution models. But we'd say, okay, let's start here first, because if we haven't figured this part out, everything else isn't going to make sense. So really focused on being a good communicator and really evolving that as a skill set. But again, be a good listener first.
And yes, communication is also very important for me as a leader, and also for my teachers and my other staff members, is that if you're not communicating, the business is not going to be able to work. I need to know what's going on in my organization. If there is anything that's troubling my teachers, then I need to know, and vice versa. I also want to be more empathetic, actually I am more empathetic when it comes to trying to figure out what classes my kids want and what parents are looking for. So I do ask my teachers what might be some course ideas that you are kind of thinking about. Maybe you've kind of come across kids in your own classes where they're thinking about where they need more help. One of my teachers gave me the idea that I should make a program on mental health. And I'm like, I honestly never thought of that. Mental health is super important for us, and I don't know why I just didn't think of that after 5 years. And so I created a program for mental health, and we launched it in September, and we were immediately full in September, 8-week program. And then we're also filling up for a mental health program in January. So there's definitely a need for health and wellness in various topics, and being able to effectively communicate just makes the business grow. And me being able to listen to feedback. When parents review our courses, there's always feedback on you should offer more handouts or certain activities to help them with engagement. And I'm always taking in the feedback and being able to rewrite the curriculum, so it's always kind of looking a good way to be more engaging with them. In terms of what can happen what can derail a business would basically be the lack of communication. Because this is fully remote, there's nothing in-house, I require full-on communication from my teachers. If there's not enough communication, then it's just not gonna work, because I don't want to feel like I'm chasing them down. I don't like micromanaging my teachers. It's just not me. I just want full-on communication when it comes to when it comes to that.
Communication is key, yeah. So for our fifth question, what skills and experiences do you wish you had acquired in your early stages of your career?
I would definitely say and everyone's going to groan when I say this because it's the thing most people hate doing, and it's networking. Early in my career, if I had have been a better networker, it would have been a lot easier for me. I think the big secret is not everyone loves networking. You walk into a room often, you don't know anyone. You're trying to introduce yourself to new people and find ways to connect with them. But it's incredibly important to where your career goes. Unfortunately, and I'll say this as someone who has spent the majority of their career in Halifax, you'll hear a lot of people say it's all who you know in Halifax, and unfortunately it's very true, in my experience anyway. And being able to grow your network will help you immensely through your career. You'll use it over and over again.
Yeah, I would put in financial acumen. Depending on what leadership role you're in or what industry you're in, you're going to at some point have to own numbers. And I remember going through university and I was studying accounting and finance, and I'm sure there's probably professors here, this guy was terrible. But I was always thinking, because I had different companies, I was like, oh, somebody else is going to do that. You're going to get to a certain point where you have to understand it at some point and really be able to make data-driven decisions. And you really need to understand the financial side of your business, because there's so many entrepreneurs that we'll run into that think they're profitable and they're not. They're making non-profitable decisions. And you really need to understand the financial acumen side of things. We work with credit unions, we work with a lot of tech companies, and we're like peeling back the numbers and we're looking through things. If you don't really truly understand them, it's hard to really make the right decisions along the way. A lot of you are really good movers and shakers, but if you don't understand the numbers, it's very difficult. That's typically why the CEO and the CFO are side by side all the time, is because they make those decisions together.
And I'm going to have to agree that financials is super important. And I say this because of my own experience. I made so many mistakes because I didn't create a budget. I didn't create realistic goals for myself when I first started Happy Kids. And I lost a lot of money because of that. So definitely kind of think about how much money you might be taking in, and don't expand your business right away. And that was one of my big downfalls, is that I brought in too many teachers. I was losing so much money. And I also brought in a social media team and all these others, and it was horrible. So the first year I did not make any money. So I've definitely learned from my experience. And the thing is that when I first started my own business, I had to be uncomfortable. Having staff was something I was very uncomfortable with doing, but I knew I had to do it. So the previous quote said, that you have to be uncomfortable in order to grow as a business and also as a leader. And I had to do a lot of uncomfortable things, including networking, which is the worst part. I'm groaning inside every time when I have to network, because I'm thinking, I do have imposter syndrome. And that's another thing to also get out of, is because every time when I'm going to a networking event, even here, I'm like, why do people care about what I do? I feel like it's not it's not very important. And, but at the same time, I'm I'm doing so much for kids, and I get so many community support and so many parent support that they just love what we're doing. And trying to get out of that imposter syndrome and doing things that is going to help you grow, is going to make you be a better leader in the long run.
And now for our
I'll just add a couple things in there, because there's probably a bunch of really good things that on the leadership side, surround yourself with people that can hold you accountable. You're going to early on be two parts. You're going to be super confident and you want to seem like you've got it all figured out. Just drop that. Find somebody that can hold you accountable. Because I'll tell you, execution is probably the biggest miss that early leaders miss, and even senior leaders miss. And so if you're not surrounding yourself with people that telling you what you need to hear versus what you want to hear, you're missing a huge opportunity. That's why when we work with executives on coaching, typically at a CEO level, they don't have somebody that they can typically be vulnerable with. So what we do is we work with them on execution. And a lot of the times they're always saying, oh my gosh, I wish I did this 10 years ago. So find an accountability partner. It could be something as simple as like finding a friend that you share your goals with, like here's what I want to do by this time, and then they can kind of share those milestones in between. That's a huge opportunity. I remember Peter Mumbercat, I don't know who has him in here, but I used to come to him with different ideas or inventing these things or standing up these businesses. He's like, that's a terrible idea. And I was like, okay, good. We'll come back with another one. And so like find people that you've got thick skin with, because if you're gonna get people surrounding you telling you, amazing, this is great, you're just gonna spin your tires. And so in reality, there's a lot of people, and I'm sure by show of hands, if we said, hey, who has had an idea they've never executed, but they've always talked about it, you gotta get somebody that's gonna force you to walk the walk, because in reality, there's a lot of people that talk the talk and don't walk the walk. And in reality, if you can have somebody in your corner that does that, and we have a microgroup. So Courtney, who just spoke, like we've worked together for years. And we have kind of microgroups of different people that we kind of hold each other accountable. And that's been transformational on how I grew my business. But even early on in your career, if you've got something that's pushing you to go farther, you're just gonna move so much quicker through your career.
Thank you. For our sixth question, mainly for the students out there, can you give one piece of advice for our students and about to be new graduates that you feel will help them in their career journey?
Okay, so this one's a good one. So I talked this morning to my university-age daughter about what I was doing this morning, and I was asking her about, what kind of advice that she would want at her age. And I told her what mine is, and she told me it was really boring. But I'm going to give it anyway, because I believe in it. And I always take the opportunity whenever I'm in front of younger folks to talk about how important it is, and that is investing. You are going to start jobs, and your employers may have investment matching programs, and you may think it seems overwhelming and you have to put in hundreds of dollars a paycheck. You don't. You can start with as little as $10, and then they match that $10. And late 40s you is going to remember late 40s me telling you this story, and you're looking at a nice lump sum of money, and you're going to be very happy with yourself that you did that. So that is my biggest piece of advice for all of you.
So I'm going to give a whole bunch. I know you're asking for one, but in reality, I remember I had a really good mentor named Pablo, and it was interesting. Like he would always ask, and he'd say, "Oh, I know you want to make us to make this investment in you." He said, "Well, think about how much you spent on yourself, like clothes and all these other things." Saying, what was that ratio look between what you've invested in yourself versus the things that you spend on yourself? And it was interesting because they started working, and I was like, holy crap, like this is a big difference between those two. So invest in yourself, make the investment, believe it's the right investment, find your ROI. I will definitely say I'll go back to the mentorship and the coaching side. Find yourself a mentorship or coach. Everybody's thinking, oh, I need to spend thousands of dollars a month on it. Maybe if you're working with us, but you don't have to. You can find somebody for free. And there's so many great people out there that are willing to give their knowledge out, because it's such a compliment to find somebody that said, hey, I'd love to learn from you. The other part too, and this is a simple one, get up early. Get really good at getting up early. I get up at 5 a.m. every single day. I've got 2 kids, and I started this years ago. And I would always get up at 6:30. I'd run a call at 8. And I was like just running reactively through the day. I started getting up at 5 a.m., started prepping the business, started getting the agendas out, doing the things I needed to do. And I read a book called The Compounding Principle. And this is a really good one to kind of give you perspective, because I was thinking numbers. Is that extra hour that I got every day to be more proactive and kind of like engage the day, it actually ended up being 15.3 extra days that I added to my year. So just by having one extra day, it gave me a whole competitive advantage over the people I'm competing with in the same industry. So be proactive, engage those areas, and work the numbers out. And I would say that was probably one of the most compelling things that we did. But again, find people in your industry that most people think they're competing with, and just share best practices. You'd be surprised that there's more people out there that have an abundance mentality and not a scarcity mentality to kind of go after things, and then share best practices. In a lot of cases, you will find you'll build more strategic relationships that way. But yeah, those would be kind of, I guess, the Coles notes.
One thing that resonated with me when I was studying at the Mount for my degree in nutrition and dietetics, I was told that when I'm done, I need to work a real job. And so I asked him, what does that even mean? It's like working in a hospital, working in a government, it's unionized, you have job satisfaction there, and you get good pay and benefits and all this stuff. Well, I had to do a lot of work to prove that a hospital is not the only real job out there. I had to prove to myself that I can be an entrepreneur. And that's the thing. When you're a business owner, when you are a leader, when you're an entrepreneur, you have to do a lot of work to get your name out there. And you have to believe in the product or service that you are promoting. And I had to do all that in order to make people that have doubts in me. I networked just because it actually made me feel good about myself. Every time when I would meet people and network, they were always congratulating me on the amount of work that we did. And that's the thing, like, you have to surround yourself with people that are going to lift you up. And if you don't believe in yourself, then you're not going to be able to succeed. And because that I believed in what I was doing. I believed in the programs that we were creating. That's what got me up every morning, creating curriculums and teaching classes until like 7 o'clock at night. And now I'm to that point where I can give myself a little bit of time off and just give my teachers the hours that I would put my sweat and tears into creating this business. And it does take a lot of work. There's been so many times that so many people that would tell me it can take at least 5 years before your business gets really going. And it took me about 3 to 4 years before I can actually say that we are growing and we're meeting projections and we're heading in the right direction. And all because that I did not let anyone tell me that I wasn't fit for entrepreneurship. When I was in university, I only took maybe 1 year of business. So I had no idea that I'd be here today. But my not real job is allowing me 3 weeks Christmas break. It's allowing me 15 hours a week of dedicating to the business. And the flexibility is allowing me to spend more time with my son, who's now 8. So I'm actually super grateful for the amount of support I got from parents and the community, and just people that I've never, I don't even know, saying how amazing we're doing for their kids.
Thank you so much for the advice. Now we are open for any student questions anyone has for mind. Our wonderful Carla will have a portable mic soon to pass around. So if anyone has any student questions, please ask away and raise your hand.
Over to you.
Hey, my name's Jordan. It was very lovely listening to you guys. If you guys have had any unfortunate news in your business, what was the strategies you used to overcome those challenges?
Can you give an example of unfortunate news?
Maybe a loss or a plan that you had in place that maybe didn't work out the way you wanted it to?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting one. So I'm not sure for you guys, but it's a lot of times early on, depending on kind of what position you're in owning the company, what you're typically going to do is you're going to get one customer that's going to generate a lot of revenue for you. And that tends to be a bad thing over time, because then they become kind of your biggest risk. So sometimes we've run into ones where we have our biggest customer is exiting, and we have to rethink about, okay, how do we fill that space, especially if it's 40% of your revenue. But I've always found those have been the biggest learning opportunities, because it forces you to rethink the way that you're operating as a business. And then you diversify and say, hey, I'm never going to be in a position where 40% of my revenue is with one customer. It's going to be my minimum standards, 15%. So there's certain deals that we would turn down that are large deals, but we don't want to put ourselves in a risk area unless we can diversify our subcontract out. So fall in love with the whiteboard, because it'll be really good to put the biggest problems you've got at the top of the whiteboard and just kind of work your way through that solution.
What I would add to that, so a strategy that has helped, in many businesses, you're always going to have, to your point, you're always going to have bad situations that come up. Transparency is number one. So we pride ourselves in our company, our leadership team, we're open and transparent with our staff. There aren't secrets. In terms of strategizing, though, in those moments, something that's been very successful for me has been immediately involving my leadership team. So helping your leaders understand the situation that you're in, they will help you enormously in how your staff understand it, especially when you have a bigger company. We have 150 people across the world, so trying to have an individual conversation with all of those employees, that's just not possible. So making sure first that all of my leadership team understands the situation, understands all of the facts, and help their staff understand. Another thing that I do is I will meet individually with teams. So we communicate messaging out, and then we can follow it up with some FaceTime with me to ask your questions, keep the group small so people feel comfortable asking their questions. We laugh constantly. We do company town halls, and I always want to play crickets because, like, in a situation like this, some people are intimidated to ask their question in front of 150 people, but in the comfort of their own team, they'll ask the questions that are weighing on their mind.
And for me, this was at the early stages of beginning the business when I first started hiring. This was hiring employees was very new to me. And because I didn't put a budget into how much I was making, and I didn't account for slow months and fast months or busy months. So like September for us and January are like big months for us. And then I didn't factor in like November, December when enrollments start to die down. So because a lot of kids are on Christmas break and we cater to the United States families, so they have American Thanksgiving. So my biggest downfall was that I was losing so much money paying for staff, and I wasn't making enough revenue to be able to afford their wages, which caused me to take out a business loan. So that was kind of like my biggest mistake when I first started. So now I am able to like set more realistic financial goals for myself. So I'm not drowning in debt. And that's something that I had to learn and be able to find ways on how to accommodate for slower growth. And now that I have programs to help us generate revenue for when it does get really slow, because we have like shorter term courses for like November, December for kids to still enroll in. So yeah, that was like that was something that I definitely need to learn.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions?
Hi, thank you very much for an excellent panel. My name is Lox, and I'm from Prince Edward Island. My question would be, do you have any recommendations for books or podcasts or YouTubers or anything for us to just find information, or anyone you'd recommend? Thank you.
I can hit you with a whole bunch. If you do Good to Great, Jim Collins, it's classic. You like can't beat that one. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I know probably everybody's heard the title, Stephen Covey. That's a wicked one because it's got concepts that apply to everything. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It could be personal, it could be professional. Atomic Habit, building discipline in your life is like really critical. If you want to be a great leader or a great executor, you got to build good habits. Like part of our core values are consistency, discipline, and standards, and we've integrated that a lot from those books. I would say never split the difference. Most people haven't heard of this book, but this is actually an FBI negotiator wrote a book on negotiation, and he applies it because he's now at Harvard. He's a teacher there, and his name's Chris Voss, and so he teaches you like really strategic communication. Every client that we work with always asks like stacks of books because we always integrate books into some of the stuff that we do. One thing I'll say is anybody that's on LinkedIn, if you're not, get on LinkedIn, add me on LinkedIn, I'll send you a list of books. I'll send you like 20 books that I would, but like podcasts, there's a whole bunch of them out there. But like I said before, good information in, bad information in. It should be really about what do you want to learn and why do you want to learn it and how do you want to use that information. And you can really drill that down through a lot of different podcasts and kind of work your way through.
I would say the 4-hour work week really helped me with my business. I
echo all of the books mentioned. One is a new one to me, so I'm going to look that one up. What I would add to that is Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. I'm a big Brene Brown fan. She talks a lot about vulnerability and leadership and how important it is. In terms of podcasts, a favorite of mine is Diary of a CEO. It's kind of a trite title, I realize, but fantastic guests, and it's a wide range of topics. So part of being a great leader is not just studying leadership. It's about studying health. It's about studying psychology. He has fantastic guests on, and I think you'll learn a lot if you tune into those. I know I listen to them on the way to work every morning, and they're very helpful.
And also, too, Canadian, Robin Sharma. So anybody that's going to do the 5 a.m. thing, it's 5 a.m. Club, it's classic. Just because he kind of walks you through, but he's got a bunch of other really good books and programs.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Hi, I enjoyed your presentation. I just wanted to ask if there are any extra inspirational quotes that kept you going along the way that you would like to share.
I will say this one, and I hope somebody can remember it, but nobody ever does. It is probably the one, because we work a lot in continuous improvement with organizations, is good, better, best, never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best. So I'll say it again. So good, better, best, never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best. The whole idea is you've just got to continue to look that there's an evolution. And I think the idea around principle, so we do this tactic every year that we pick one word that we theme the whole year on, and it's really kind of like the whole piece. And when we started, we use the word potential, because potential is endless. And so the idea with continuous improvement is ever evolving, it's always getting better. And then fit, it would be frequency, intensity, and technique. So it's really about how often you're doing, what you're investing, and what the technique is. And honestly, quotes, I could just do these all day, but that would be the one that I would go for, so.
I just want to say those became my favorite quotes, so whatever he said.
And the irony is my children tell me that I'm chuggy because I have signs, and I didn't even know what chuggy was, signs in my house with all these quotes on them, and none of them are popping to mind at the moment. One I will say is not nearly as positive as yours, but I do believe in it, and it's silence is the best reply to a fool. Throughout your career, you're going to be criticized. People are going to take shots at you, in life even. And if the energy you will spend reacting to all of those just isn't worth it. So saying nothing at all has a lot of power when people say things that aren't so pleasant.
I'll give you 2 more, because this is one you're going to be fire. Because you're at some point at your stage of your career, depending on where you're at, you're making decisions along the way to kind of what you want to do. So this is when I started kind of getting up early, is that you have to sacrifice something of lesser value to achieve something of greater value. So I had to give up sleep to get ahead. And there's certain things that you're going to make decisions on to do that. And also, too, we work with a lot of organizations on accountability. So we work with teams on high performance execution. And we get a lot of people that make the same decisions to not execute. And so an old saying we use is a mistake made twice is a decision. And so we have to sit down and have some tough conversations with people, because in reality, you shouldn't be repeating the same mistake, or that leader should reinforce it in a way that you just don't.
Pretty inspirational. Any more questions?
Sure. Okay.
Thank you. A big thank you to the panelists and, of course, the organizers of this conference.
Thank you.
We've really enjoyed ourselves from the beginning. My question is going to Erin. Hope I'm not putting you on the hot seat. It's because, you mentioned while speaking that you'd never envisaged seeing yourself on that side of the table, and the rest of us looking up to you to learn certain qualities. And also, I did not know I'll be asking you this question too. That's because just before we broke out into the question and answer session, there was something quite remarkable that you mentioned with regards to your business. You said that in the first year, you made some losses, but you were able to turn around the situation in 3.5 years. So 1 year was a loss, So in 2.5 years, you're able to turn around and make profits. I think that's quite remarkable because the industry benchmark statistically provides for 5 years for any new business to achieve a semblance of stability. And you were able to do this in 3.5 years, irrespective of the challenge of the first year. Now, for anyone that has done a small business, your first year experience and challenges are quite relatable. However, I would want to narrow it down to certain behavioral strengths or character traits that you have been able to build up or attain over the years. So I would like to ask if you can share with us particular attitudinal strengths that have helped you to achieve these significant results. Thank you. I'm Bright Osakwe, NSCC Truro.
Great question. So what really helped me is a strength is that I didn't give up on myself. I knew that it was just a slight downfall, and I knew that we were still able to generate revenue. I just needed to be more cautious with how much I was spending. So that really helped me is that I did not doubt that I couldn't do it. Like having staff terrified me. When I first started this, I was just like me, myself, and I. And then when the business started to grow over COVID, I knew I couldn't do it anymore by myself. So I had to look for some teachers to help me with it. And it was, and like I did not lose focus the entire time that I did lose a lot of money. And the unfortunate side was that I had to get a high interest business loan, and it was because that regular banks did not see my vision. It wasn't generating enough income for them to feel comfortable to give me like enough capital. So I would not recommend a high-interest business loan because it takes a long time to pay that off, especially when you're still in the startup phase. But once I did get that paid off, and once we were able to grow, and what really helped me increase revenue was that I kept adding more courses. I kept seeing what parents are looking for in terms of courses. And I had to experiment with course offerings. We had courses that just weren't selling. So I basically just took them down, I retired them, and I came up with other courses. So I had to, in my first couple of years, I had to play around a lot with different course offerings to see which ones kids were interested in. So I was managing staff, and then I also had to manage the course offerings to see what they were looking for, and I kind of have it down packed now, so which is good. The first 3 years were definitely a big headache, but I'm glad that I stuck to it.
Do we have more room for any more questions? Oh, sadly not. All right. Thank you to all of our panelists for your time, knowledge, and expertise. And we would like to present you with a small token of our appreciation.